Hey everybody, Syntax77 here, back with another installment of my solo winter backpacking trip series. Right now we're in the planning phase. If you haven't seen those other two installments, you might want to check them out first. Otherwise, spoiler alert, we have selected the location on those prior videos, and now we're on to the actual specific route that we're going to take. And by we, I mean you and I, because once again, this is a solo trip. Matter of fact, some of you might actually be wondering, where have I been? I mean, I pumped out a decent amount of videos in January, and then I kind of disappeared for a couple weeks now almost, or something like that. Well, basically, as I mentioned in the previous video in this series, squeezed in between the solo trip, I was doing another winter trip, more snowy and cold, up in New Hampshire with Mike. Do we know where we're going?
Well, we have an idea now, but our original plan didn't really work out at all.
No. I did that trip, so I was spending time preparing for that trip. I went on that trip, I came back from that trip, and then I've been working real hard on my Iceland video, which is coming.
The rainbow.
Pretty cool. But I've had momentum with that. I've just been cruising along, really editing that. And if I got momentum, sometimes I just have to really lock in and focus on that. So that means less attention to these smaller videos. Even though they are quick to make, I just need to keep momentum sometimes. So that's where I've been. But enough about that. Let's talk about the trip that's coming up, the solo trip. As revealed in the prior video, the place I'm going for this solo trip is Grayson Highlands in Virginia. And in that prior video, I also brought up the fact that I needed to get a map so I could start planning more detailed. And I got some great feedback from the viewers out there. I really appreciate it. Narrowed it down to the National Geographic map number 318, which is what I have in my hand right here, and what we're going to take a closer look at once I get it spread out somewhere where we can get a better look at it. So here we go. Now you can see the general area here, as well as this pink outline that shows the boundary for the Grayson Highlands State Park, and it butts right up against to the north here against the Mount Rogers National Recreation Area, which also contains some wilderness areas, as you can see here, the Lewis Fork Wilderness, Little Wilson Creek Wilderness, and some other ones off map there. So my idea is to do a loop that encompasses, of course, the state park, because that is where the ponies are, the wild ponies, which I kind of went into on that other video, the details of that. But I do want to get in there to see that, get some cool footage and experiences, and then also kind of take the AT and some other trails around up here into the Mount Rogers recreational area to create a loop up there as well, maybe some ridgeline areas, etc. There's also a lot of rolling hills and bald areas that we talked about before in here as well, so I want to encompass them too. I've been kind of looking at it with a piece of string, my old string trick. I took the key from the map that showed how much a mile was, and I just put these dots every mile just to get rough ideas of making some loops and following some trails in here. And then of course the actual mileage for each segment of trail is marked on here pretty nice. These National Geographic maps are good. The good thing about them is you can find them for just about any area. That is awesome. Sometimes I find that they're not as detailed for the area I want to go as I'd like, and that's probably just because, again, you can find them for a lot of areas, but they're going to be large sections, and sometimes I find myself paying $15 for one of these big old maps that weighs like, I don't know, 8 ounces or something, and I end up with a really tiny portion that I actually want to see, and it's not a lot of detail. In the case of this map, as recommended by some of the viewers out there, this is a good amount of detail. I'm liking it. So you can see in the Highlands State Park here, most of the trails are up in the northern section of it. Not a lot down here, just some roads and stuff. So let's move this down a little bit like that. So what I could do is some trails in the park connected with the Appalachian Trail is the orange one right here, and I hear it is some really beautiful section of Appalachian Trail. Some would say even the crown jewel of Virginia is this section through the Grayson and Mount Rogers area. So definitely want to do that. And then also perhaps some of these minor trails up here to cause some connections. Now, while doing my research, as well as based on viewer feedback, I did check out the Hiking Upwards website, which is great. I highly recommend it. And they had a loop that looked really cool. I also found a website called Mid-Atlantic Hikes, I believe it is, that had a similar loop, although a little shorter, and it didn't quite dip into the park. And from looking at that and just a whole bunch of other research, I have kind of come up with the loop I want to do. But another thing pointed out by viewers was the fact that once you get your hands on one of these maps, you can really start to kind of see some obvious loops in here. So that's what we're going to do. Now, the starting point is another choice as well. On most of the loops that I found that stood out to me on the internet and other people's blogs, they seem to start from up here at this gridiron campsite or along the road and whatnot, and they would hike up these switchbacks to get into the area. Now, also, I do notice some roads obviously going into the park, and here's what I'm thinking. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to do 2 nights and 3 days. I'm either going to drive down the night before, or I'm just going to get up super early and drive down. Either way, what that's going to do to me is create a situation where I'm either pretty tired and not at my top physical condition on the first day, or if I drive down the morning of, I'm going to get there and only have about a half day to hike. So either one of those scenarios, I probably want a lighter day on the first day, and then I have to drive home on the last day as well. So I'm thinking I will do 2 shorter days and a longer mileage day sandwiched in the middle. Another one of my thoughts was I kind of would like to have the beginning and end of the trip be in the actual Grayson Highlands State Park to begin and finish with some views of the ponies potentially, especially if on the last day I don't have much mileage and I'm just kind of taking my time. I could really putter around in there and enjoy myself. So, what I didn't see recommended as often, but hopefully is an option, is I'm thinking I could drive in and park at the state park to start my loop. Now, I've read anecdotally on the internet and forum posts and whatnot that there is an overnight backpackers parking lot specifically for them somewhere in here, so that leads me to believe overnight parking is fine, at least at that particular parking lot. What I haven't been able to find, even on their website, and I'm going to have to give them a call just to make sure, is where exactly that lot is and if it's year-round, etc., that's okay. I'm assuming it is, but just want to play it safe. Now, if I do that, what I'm thinking is there's some trails here. And for you guys out there who know the area better, please chime in and tell me if I'm really messing up and missing out on some areas or taking a trail that really isn't the best option. But I'm thinking maybe start from this Massey Gap, take this trail up here, and I'm thinking I'll take that up and boom, I'll hit right there, the orange trail, which again is the Appalachian Trail. And I could go kind of counterclockwise here, work my way up the Appalachian Trail, come over here, it bends over here, and it hits this Thomas Knob shelter. Now, I'm not going to be staying at shelters. I'm going to be bringing a hammock setup for cold weather. But anywhere there's a shelter, there's also usually some flat campable land as well as a spring, as denoted by these blue dots here, which will give me some water in addition to any streams I might just randomly cross along the way. That would only put me at around 4 miles for the first day, but for the aforementioned reasons, that might not be so bad, and I could just enjoy myself. It is winter, so the days will be shorter. It's going to be cold, and I might just want to hunker down early anyway. It's not like I'll be getting a lot of footage very late into the night like summer. Now, of course, this is going to be my first solo trip in a while, and it has dawned on me that I like to really do those higher mileages on those trips because it's just me pushing along, and I usually do less frills, no crazy meals, and stuff like that. So this is less mileage maybe than I wanted to do, but really, and again, guys, you can chime in if I'm wrong about this, but from looking at this, I don't see a lot of reason to go crazy and pound out a ton of miles. I'm thinking it may be better just to take my time and really enjoy this area. So 4 miles the first day. The next day I'll wake up. Now I have 2 options. I measured out if I doubled back about a mile here and then cut across here and worked my way around to this Wise shelter area. But that would only give me about 6 miles, and that's a full day of hiking, even in a short winter day. That's pretty short, especially when you're by yourself. So my other alternative to at least beef up the miles a bit would be to continue down here on the Appalachian Trail, but then leave it for the Mount Rogers Trail. Now, something else I forgot to mention is the Mount Rogers Peak is actually right there, which I could hit, what's that say, 0.5 miles or so from the shelter area. It's a little spur trail. Now, people have warned me there's no real view from up there, so I'm not going to see out into the surrounding areas off of a ridgeline or anything, but it might be worth doing just to say that I hit Mount Rogers. It is the tallest peak in Virginia. I hear that being pretty rare for the area, there's a stand of, is it Douglas firs up there or something like that? I don't know. I'm not really a super tree nerd, but I guess that's another thing to check off your list. Anyway, so if I do that or not, that's fine. It's right there. Regardless, I'll be following that AT, and then I will leave it, Mount Rogers Trail here, and I'll cruise down. And then right here is when you get to those switchback areas that a lot of people seem to approach from because they park at this gridiron parking lot area. I keep reading, and I don't know if this is something that has stopped in the present, but at least in the past, a lot of car vandalisms and even car thefts in this area of highway here. And I guess that's why people were opting to pay $3 a night to park at the official Gridiron campsite here. I don't know how much that would matter during winter anyway, but I won't be doing that. I'll come down, and before embarking down those switchbacks, I'll take this hard cut over here, and I'm trying to get back over to the Appalachian Trail, that orange there. I'll have a couple options, and if anybody can tell me which is better, let me know, but I see that I can bend down the Lewis Fork Trail here, or a little tighter on the, what trail is this? Actually, they're both the Lewis Fork Trail. Okay, so Lewis Fork Trail's kind of a loop, I guess. Yeah, 4533. Yeah, they're both the same there. But either way, what I'm thinking is I would probably, from looking at the elevation here, rather stay up on this ridge. I don't know if there's views or not, but I at least would stay up on the ridge to avoid beating myself up for no reason, because this one looks like it goes down, crosses the water, comes over here, and then gains elevation again. I guess if I'm looking for a nice workout, that would be cool, but I'll probably, as of right now, stay on the ridge there. Again, if this trail is super cool, guys and gals, let me know. I'll totally do that instead. But that'll bring me over here, and then I will cruise up here on Pine Mountain Trail, and finally get back to the Appalachian Trail. This is going to take me all the way around. You see, I could, at that point, take the Virginia Highlands Trail, which is also a horse trail. I don't know how cool that is. It does look from the topo here to be probably in one of these maybe bald areas. But I think what I'm going to do is swing wide on the Appalachian Trail around here. I'm just guessing from the topo, this looks like it would be some cool area. I hope it is. And come over here and end at the Wise Trail. I think that would put me around 9 miles for today. Not too bad at a leisurely pace. That would be a nice day of winter hiking, I think. Camp somewhere around here, same idea. I'm not going to stay at the shelter, but from looking at the topo and just knowing that it's a shelter area, there's probably some good camping areas around here for me to set up my hammock, as well as reliable water. I hope. I'm going to have to research more before I go and double check the reliability of these water sources and really map that out. That would be another phase after looking at the loop here, is when I should take it serious if I'm skipping over water sources and stuff. But anyway, hopefully there's actually water there overnight, which is super convenient. The next morning I would wake up and I could cruise down, I'm thinking this way, and back into the Masti Gap area, and it would only be about 4 miles, similar to the first day. And I could really just kind of take my time in here. Perhaps even depending on my mood and how much time I have, I could extend even longer, go down here, work my way up, really just kind of stack some miles on and get back to that Masti Gap, or even come back and drive around the park. I don't know. I'll have options, but that's my general loop that I'm thinking I'm going to do. As you can see, there's still a couple variables in there, and as I go, like I said, there are ways for me to jack up the mileage and the elevation gains as I see fit. I could even go down here to add some stuff, but yeah, you get the point. That's pretty much what I'm going to do. I'm thinking start from the park, go out, make a loop, and that gives me the first day and the last day to be in the park, which is my last mile of days, to kind of hang out and see the sights. Now let's move that up to get the park in the center again. One of the things that people did point out to me, and I read this as well, is that during the winter, it's possible that the ponies will actually be more concentrated in the lowland area of the park. I'll have to research that a little further, but I don't know if they actually corral them that way or if that's just what they tend to do, probably naturally because high winds and stuff, but they should be somewhere in here for me to see. And remember, that pink border is the state park boundary, and from the pictures I've seen and from the reading I've done, they seem to have these kind of structures where there's a fence and then you kind of have a ladder looking staircase steps up and over that keeps the ponies from crossing over and continuing outside of the park. At least that's what I gather. So that's my plan so far. For those of you out there more experienced with the area, and there seems to be a number of you that I really appreciate your feedback, if you want to let me know, please chime in and I will plan accordingly. But I think that pretty much does it for this route planning video. That's about it. It's only about mid-20s on the miles, but I'm fine with that, and it should be a good time. Next video's up in this series. We're going to have to get into what I'm packing, of course, and then perhaps even a separate video on food I'm going to bring, which probably will be pretty simple for this trip. I tend not to go too crazy with the food when I do the solo trips, but you never know. So thanks for joining me on this little foray into planning my Grayson Highlands winter solo backpacking trip. Till next time, I'm Syntex77, and you have fun out there. All right, buddy, come on, let's go. Let's get out of here.